Okay, so this will be our last class. This will be class 6 of our Introduction to Mindfulness. I think most people have been pleasantly surprised. This was far more than an introduction to mindfulness from what I've heard. Is that your assessment as well? Yes. Yeah, fairly deep introduction. I wanted to take this, wanted to take you seriously and take our program seriously. Our next course, we're going to take a few-week break. It'll begin on Tuesday, January 9th, same time, and we will begin with illuminating the path to enlightenment, which is the foundations of our journey. So if you were to enter into the monastery or nunnery, this would be the first right out of the gate. It's called the Lam Rim, or Stages of the Path to Enlightenment. We will be using a free text that's online that we'll send you the link. So you don't have to pay any money for that. But if you'd like to get the book, you can also get it. You can order it from Amazon, but it is free. And it is a 1,000-year-old text from Atisha that is an Indian master who lays out the path to enlightenment that we've been using ever since. And we'll be using a commentary from the Dalai Lama for our next course. So, and I'll be providing commentary on that on top of it, as well as the instructions. Okay, so that's what's coming, and I would like you to read the first, the introduction in the first chapter of that for our next course, please. And again, it is free, and the link will be it's on our websites and on all of our correspondence to you, so you'll see that. If you are taking these courses for teacher training, you do not have to reapply for each course. We have your information. But if you are taking it for auditing, then you have to just go through the steps again. So no problem. Okay? And I think we have presently 92 or 93 people taking this for teacher training. And I believe that we have, which is fantastic. So it couldn't be any happier. That means we're training all of these people properly. That will now be the next generation of Western Buddhist teachers. So I couldn't tell you how excited I am about all of this, and really spending almost all of my time making sure this goes well. If you've seen the website recently, it's been updated, and it will be almost completely updated by the end of the year. And all of the audio and video and visual AV links will be attached to it, so super easy access for everybody. And I think that we have meditation instructors for virtually everyone now. Is there anyone here who wanted one and did not receive one? Just Richard? Okay. If there are a couple of you, I definitely want. There are a couple of you who I've put on the back burner as sort of last, but Richard, you're not one of those. I don't know how that, we've sort of went over you somehow. If you can take a note on that, love. So Richard and Katie still need, but I think everyone else. And if you haven't received out on our online classes, or if you're in any of the communities, please let us know, because we are believing that we've paired almost everyone up at this point. Okay, so let's get started with prayers and aspirations. Just the Metta Sutta this evening. And this is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and downward to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, awakens from suffering and discovers everlasting peace. Beautiful. Okay, so I was going to use this class to do a mindfulness of awareness, but the last few days of me traveling actually provided me with an opportunity to switch gears and do something that I think would be even more relevant to our introductory series of mindfulness. And that is, we'll title this class Mindfulness in Everyday Life. Mindfulness in Everyday Life. And I thought you could use that right now. Seasons, you got was Happy Hanukkah also. Is today's Hanukkah, correct? Yeah, so Happy Hanukkah. Yeah. To everyone. And I wanted to bring, because there's a way that, we've gone through a lot of practices these last 5 weeks, and there's a way that you could be hearing this incorrectly, and that is that you're being inundated with practices. And I suspect that some of you are probably feeling that already. And then, we have 6 more years of training coming, and you're probably, you could really begin to catastrophize. I know some of you. I can easily see your mind going there, going, "Oh my God, he's basically just turning us into monks, but we're not." And he's just going to have us do, 15 or 20 hours of practice a day. Which I'm not saying I'm not doing that, but that is not the idea. So there's a way that you can take these things, which is called prescriptive, and that is that I am prescribing to you each week that you add on more and more and more classes. And so if you do it that way, if you take this as prescriptive rather than descriptive, then I think you're going to feel inundated and overwhelmed right from the very beginning, and which is not my intent. The intent is not to hear these meditations each week and then think that you should add on and add on and add on, because then you will definitely feel overwhelmed. So what we are doing is we're giving you a broad survey of mindfulness practices. And there are many more, but these are the foundations, and I really don't like to use this word foundations. It's really not the translation, although it is the most common translation, which is the Sanskrit patana. And it's being translated as the 4 foundations of mindfulness, or satipatthana. But what I'm hoping that you saw was something different, and that is what we spoke about right from the very beginning, which is freedom. That was our first class as mindfulness is a synonym for freedom, that it would show you that there are different frames of reference that could be utilized at any time to look at any moment of reality that you happen to be in. And there is a breath frame of reference, there is a body frame of reference, there is a sensate frame of reference, there is an emotional frame of reference, there is a thought frame of reference, there is a mood frame or predisposition frame of reference, mindfulness of mind, that we discussed last week. There's all these different frames of reference, and all of them are available to you at any time, and any of them would provide you with freedom from suffering, if taken. Now, if you try to apply them all at the same time, I think you'll probably feel more suffering than ever, and wonder what are you supposed to be doing. You could hear this. You could hear each of these talks and each of these meditations, in other words, as prescriptive. Does that make sense? That I'm prescribing that you do this, 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 and this, and that if you could just do all of this, then you'll be fine. Which could sound like a mountain of work, and really not at all what's being described here. What is being described is that you are aware that there are these different frames of reference that are available to you, and that reality isn't just one way. We call it. We say that there are 2 pillars of mindfulness. That at any given moment there is what is happening, and then there is your relationship to what is happening. And these are the 2 pillars that we speak of so often in our lineages. There is what is happening, and there's our relationship to what is happening. And my point in this is that there's always more than one relationship that you could take at any given moment. And you want to know what all those different possibilities are. They're not prescriptions that you do them all at the same time. You want to know what they all are. Any one of them would help you to stop suffering and to see things more clearly, and to not buy into storylines and dramas. Any one of them. Mindfulness of breath in any moment would do that. Mindfulness of sensations would do that. Mindfulness of thoughts, emotions, mindfulness of mental states or predispositions would do that. And of course, that is a lesson as a practitioner for all of you, because most people, as you know, before even coming to these classes, don't even know that those are possibilities. They actually think that in any moment they're actually relating to the world, or they're relating to their relationships or themselves as they are. And they don't know that that's just a frame of reference. And they don't know that what they're viewing is largely something that could be seen differently. So when it comes to what the Buddha taught, he was asked, what is it that you do? And he said, I teach suffering and the end of suffering. And so if you take a look at it, it's like that's what our goal is to find what would be the best frame of reference to see things where I could look at things differently, where there would be less stress and less suffering. And there always is our point at this stage. There's always so many different ways to see things. There's so many different ways to see things. There's not just one way. And not just as an intellectual endeavor, but as a somatic endeavor. There's a different way to not just see things, but to feel things, to experience things. Completely different point of view. And so that if you're suffering or if you're experiencing stress, to know that you have this capacity because you've been practicing, you've been meditating, you've been checking in with meditation instructors, you've been doing the things that we have described instead of prescribed, that you could literally start to, by doing the practice, you could take this off the cushion and bring it into your everyday life. And that is what this particular class is about this evening. And as usual, we go through our basic way that we do classes for the last few thousand years. Is that we first do a teaching, which is either through study or coming to a class like this. And then the second part of it is to contemplate what it is that you've heard. And then the third part is to meditate. And so we'll do all of that this evening. But how are we going to bring this into daily life? And what would it look like? And I'm going to give some examples about what it would look like. I thought it would be good. I've been going through it myself the last few days, trying to get back here and help. With all of this equipment that we have, and get ready for the 10-day retreat that we have coming up, which I think is sold out at this point. Is that Jenny? Is Jenny, or I think Jenny said that was sold out already? It is?
23 people.
23, yeah, so we're full. Yeah, and I think we're trying to get one or two more people in. If Philip is...
Will we be offering that on Zoom?
I would like to offer it. It's up to you. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we are offering that as well. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you can watch online if you'd like to watch the 10-day retreat or to participate in that. And my dear friend, Philip Hedrick, who's been with me forever, it seems like forever and a day, even more than this life at this point, will be leading that. But it's really come to my attention, like how this practice, what I could help you with this evening, and as directly applied to the events that I have been experiencing, in airports and not getting what I want, and feeling what could be considered to be an extraordinary amount of stress and tension and pressure, and then having to relate to people who are trying to ask questions about meditation practice. They're trying to ask questions about counseling. People who are literally trying to help me in getting all of this stuff set up. And it's just like it could be seen as a dam that is breaking. And in all the background, we were trying, Davida and I were trying to take off because Philip is teaching for the 10-day retreat, so we were going to take off for 10 days. But none of the plans that we had wanted to do materialized. Not a single one. We don't even have a single plane ticket. And there's going to be so many different ways to experience all of this as stress and as pressure. And I was thinking that you probably could relate to some of this in your own lives.
Yes.
Is that fair? Okay. And so what would have been a better class? Mindfulness of awareness or mindfulness, how to bring all of these different frames of reference into everyday life? And so I thought we would do this, since that's what I'm also going through, and how to apply all of this, and what does it look like as a practitioner. So, do you have a pen and paper? Let's go ahead and let's make a drawing, and I want you to get sort of a classical frame of reference with all this. And a classic frame of reference is that you make a house, and it's a 2-story house, just a simple one, just a little A-frame, and it has a door on the bottom floor and a window on either side of the door, and then 3 windows on the second floor. So you have a total of 5 windows and a door. Classic representation. Now, what is being described is that there is an occupant of this house, you believe, and the occupant is namely yourself. That you're in there somewhere, but do not put yourself in there. It's just you believe that there is someone in there, right? And nominally speaking, we'll give it your name. You're in there somewhere. This is your house. Now, what the 5 windows represent are your 5 sense faculties. The 5 sense faculties. So visual, auditory, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body. Your 5 sense faculties. And the door represents something that we use in Buddhism as a 6th sense faculty, which is your mind. The cognitive frame of reference. So how to bring all of this together into mindfulness in everyday life? It's actually, at this point, if you've been doing all the meditations, pretty easy what I'm about to describe. It is referred to in our tradition as choiceless awareness. Choiceless awareness. And the aim, again, is to give you freedom and to help you reduce stress and suffering in your life. And really to provide you with concrete examples this evening about what this would look like. And I'd like to take lots of questions about it before we do the meditation. So choiceless awareness means, let's start with this as an antecedent to this. How about this? Pretty common idea I hear all the time, and I know it well, is the idea of balance. That I want to have more balance in my life. You know, if you've said this, you've heard this quite a bit. I imagine I'm not alone in this. I need balance. And a pretty standard American way of going about getting balance in their lives is by dividing time. Is by time division. Say, I'm going to have this much time for this much time for this, I'm going to have this much time for this much time for my family, this much time for exercise, and this I'll spend this much time at work, and that way I will find balance in my life. From our perspective, that idea would be considered foolish, totally ridiculous. And if you are out and watching online, if you could hit your mute buttons, please. And I'll let you know when it's Q&A. So here's the idea. The idea, instead of trying to have this much time here and this much time here, is that we would like you first to cultivate mindfulness, choiceless awareness. Choiceless awareness. That instead of trying to control time and give time for each of these activities, that you would learn how to be okay with whatever showed up or presented itself to your sense faculties, whatever presented itself. As we say, the 2 pillars of mindfulness again are, there is what is happening, and here it is right here. There's what is happening, whatever shows up. And not trying to control whatever it is that shows up. And that particular mechanism is what most people try to do, and that causes them great stress. That they try to control whatever shows up. Certain things that they want, and there's certain things that they don't want. Fair? And that's going to cause you lots of problems. And it has caused you lots of problems. Trying to control what shows up in front of the windows of that house and who shows up at the door. You try to control that flow, you're going to suffer more than ever. That control is the problem. To a certain degree, of course, you can mitigate it, but largely not possible. Not possible. For example, at the airport the last couple days, That is not what I would have said I wanted to be in front of the windows or coming to my door. That I would not have wanted that all the flights would be canceled or missed. And literally it's taken us 3 days to get back from California. That's not a choice I would have made. So let's look at it for a second. Let's use an example in your own life for a second. Something that has shown up, you could say unwanted. So go ahead and write one down, please. Yeah, mindfulness in everyday life. Something has shown up. You didn't ask for it. It just happened to be there. You got it? Everybody got something? Not difficult, right? So trying to apply your practice, you have it on the cushion, but then how to apply it off the cushion in everyday life. So here's an idea that if you're practicing every day choiceless awareness, here's what it means. Let's use an example of animals. So that a bird might show up at one window. Maybe a dog shows up at another. And they just keep, all these different animals just keep on coming to all the different windows. Can you see them? Just imagine for a second. And imagine that that's like 5 different things showing up that you didn't ask for. You got it? It's like that. So a couple more things that have shown up in your life recently, you didn't ask for it to happen. They just keep showing up. You can't control all this, can you? But did you try? And then when things did show up, did you try to push it away? Like it's not supposed to be there? So come on, write some of this stuff down. Like a few more things, not just one thing, but now a few more things that have shown up. And what was your relationship like to things that just showed up? Remember, 2 pillars of mindfulness, there is what is happening and there is your... So did you did you like that stuff and try to keep it? Did you try to get rid of it? How'd you handle this? So choiceless awareness, I want you to get an idea of what we mean when we say choiceless awareness. So you know how to practice better, and then that when you learn how to practice this better, then you can take it off the cushion too. You don't get to choose. You see that? Most of what shows up in those windows and doors, you don't get to choose. Now you start thinking about this in terms of your life so far, right? You don't get to choose. You could even say, I'm going to go on vacation. But what shows up when you're on vacation, largely, you didn't what? You can choose a location. Let's say you want to go to Italy and you want to go to Florence, but did you know that all the things in that hotel and all the people there and the way the bed, they forgot some things in the bedroom and the bathroom, the sink doesn't work. You didn't plan on any of that, and you can't. That's out of your hands. How do you handle stuff like that? You have an idea how you typically handle things that just show up, which is essentially most of your life? You can't control this stuff. And by the way, if you did try to control it, do you feel freedom when you try to control what shows up? Kurt, what do you think? How does that feel? Steve, you try to control whatever. This can't be there. Only this can be there. Does that bring you great freedom and peace and contentment? What'd you say?
I'm trying to roll with it, just let things happen and ease my way out.
Because you're sitting here practicing on the cushion, letting all these different things arise and fall, come and go. But you may not have figured out that this was actually something that you're supposed to do off the cushion in everyday life. You're starting to pick up on this, maybe? Yeah, that there's actually a connection. I'm not just sitting here teaching you how to do stuff for half an hour a day or an hour a day, and then you just do 23 hours of tension. So mindfulness in everyday life. So there's what is happening and there's your relationship to what is happening. And all of these different animals just keep showing up, don't they? All these different kind of birds. And are they pretty birds or ugly birds? You don't get to what? Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a woodpecker, right? And it's just outside your window and on your house and going at your house, right? And sometimes it's a vulture, and sometimes it's a parrot. And I mean, you just don't get to choose. Right? You say, if I asked you, would you like to see a bird outside the window? You'd be like, oh, that would be nice. But then what if it's not the right kind of bird? What if it's like a bunch of vultures in your front yard? And they're picking at something, a carcass. Then how are you okay with that? It's like, what's your relationship like? So choiceless awareness means that you are aware that things are showing up at the door, that things are showing up at the windows. And you're not having this relationship where you're trying to get rid of things, or that you only want certain things there. And you stop with the control business. It's not, you begin to recognize it's not in my hands. What shows up, who shows up, how long they stay. And to try and live your life as though you can control these things. Damien, how's that going? In an expression, he says, right. So you get the idea. Eleanor, how's it going? And it's not just, don't forget, it's not just things, it's also internal things, like tactile sensations. Like, you get older, you get physical pain, right? And it's like, you don't get to control all of this. You figured that out, Eleanor? It just keeps on coming. And then sometimes it just goes away. And then sometimes it keeps on, what's your relationship like to all of this stuff? So we are proposing something to you on the first step toward freedom from suffering is that you develop choiceless awareness. What Steve Ivan referred to as rolling with it. Rolling with it. But I don't want you to just to roll with it, which I think is cool and it sounds nice. I think Steve is probably on the same page as I am right now. Probably on the same page. He's just using really cool terminology. But I don't want you to just to roll with it. I want you to recognize it. I want you to recognize that these things are showing up. And that you're not just trying to roll with it, but you're actually recognizing it, and it's okay that it's there. That it's okay that it's there. And you can even welcome these things, believe it or not. Had lots of fun with TSA people today. Lots of jokes, right? Lots of fun with the flight attendants. There's so many different ways that this could have gone. We had. I finally was like, oh my God, I get to sleep for a couple hours. Who's right in front of me? A baby, and not really a baby, more like 3, 4 years old. And he decides this is his time to shine, right? So there's just what shows up is what shows up. Screaming, crying, yelling, and I'm like, I'm not going to get any sleep before I teach this evening. That's not going to happen. And that's what it is. And so that's what showed up. No sleep. And I'm going to teach this class. This is what I live for. This is what I love. And I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I'm just going to tell everyone about my complaint. And that's it. And so, but that's what shows up. But more importantly is how I related to it. Like, I still look forward to being here. I couldn't wait to get here. And if I had to drive like Mario Andretti to get here, which I did, to teach this mindfulness class, because this is what I do. And I don't think I almost killed anyone. And I don't think I did. No. We got here nice, and we got here safely in one piece. But there's what is happening, and there's your relationship to what is happening. To develop first step in all of this, choiceless awareness. You're not in control. You're not in control of most things. Of course, you can mitigate some things. It's like coming to meditations. Like, there's some things that you can do. Like, you can have a cushion, you can set it up just right. You can try to mitigate it like that. There's some things that you can do. We're not saying you're totally, you have no control over, you have no free will over anything. But by and large, what? Deal with it. You don't. Accept it. And accept that if you try, that you're going to suffer. Trying to control the flow of what shows up is suffering. Trying to control the flow of what shows up is suffering. You don't get that. You don't get that opportunity. Don't get jealous of other people too, who have what you would perceive to be cooler things show up at their house. This is what shows up at your house. It's not what other people. It's not a comparison to other people's houses. They have cooler stuff. Show up in their windows or whatever. It's all what you have to work with is what shows up in front of your windows and your door. And it is not a rating or comparing system to other people. How's that? We good? Yeah, and wishing that you had someone else's house. You guys play this game? I wish I had someone else's house, and I wish they had mine. Or maybe not that part at least. Maybe you wouldn't wish that upon anyone. But at least you wished you had someone else's house. But that's the idea. That's stuff. That's suffering. You play what shows up in front of your windows and your door. So choiceless awareness first, and to learn how to recognize that that's what's happening, and to accept that's what's happening, and that you don't have to do anything about it, and that you can literally have that freedom to go, I don't have to worry about what shows up. I don't have to worry about what shows up. And what we have here is this things that we call in my counseling work, we focus a lot on this, but it's really Buddhist stuff, frankly. And that is, what you have here is you have your shoulds and your shouldn'ts at those windows and that door. And your shoulds and your shouldn'ts, I want you to, as part of mindfulness in everyday life this week, I want you to track your shoulds this week. They're really important for you to track. You just make a little mark on your hand, or you can put a little mark on your phone. You can list a little input. How many times that you utilize this mistaken framework, which is should and shouldn't. Should, shouldn't, sometimes we say must, mustn't, but should and shouldn't will do. Things shouldn't be this way. Things should be this. Basically, this is what should show up in the windows, and this shouldn't be there. Does that make sense? So those are your shoulds, and what should represents is a basic demand that reality be different than it is, that things should not be in front of my windows, or some things should be there. And that's what we mean by should. And I want you to see that that is opposed to the concept of choiceless awareness. And when you do use this, I want you to see what primary emotion or emotions come with it. When you demand that things should or should not be there. And do you have an idea, some of you? What are the primary emotions that come up for you when you say that should not be in front of my windows and my door? Frustration, anger, irritation, rage. Yeah, you got it. So here you're learning like how, truly how to be cool. It's just like, hey, whatever shows up is what shows up. We're not demanding that things shouldn't be there. We're not making any demands that things should be there or shouldn't be there. Nicole, what do you think? Useful? Yeah? Applicable? Richard? Yeah? Peter? Okay, so first step in all of this. Now, you may be hearing right now something that I didn't say, which is, what I did say is that this is the first step toward freedom. I didn't say it's the final step toward freedom, because if you do, which I think probably some of you are hearing incorrectly, so I want to address it, which is Michael is suggesting that whatever just shows up, we just basically take it. We stop making demands on reality. We just, whatever shows up in our lives, we let it be there. We don't accept it. We don't try to get rid of it. We just acknowledge that it's there, and that's it, which would basically turn you into a doormat. Just a big doormat, and emotionally just neutered. People just kind of run all over you. So if you're hearing that, I want to go ahead and stop you right now and say that is precisely not what I'm getting at. I'm only saying this is the first step, is learning choiceless awareness. Learning choiceless awareness on the cushion, and then trying it off the cushion. Now, let's give an example of this, about what you could do and what you couldn't do right about here. So let's say that something has shown up, and since you're all writing away, look at your pen for a second. Take a look at your pen. So I say there is what is happening, and there is your relationship to what is happening. Now that could also be a leaf from the tree. That there is what is happening, and there is your relationship to what is happening. So why choiceless awareness is the first step, but not the last step, is important right now. What I'd like you to look at is that there's just this thing called pen. So take a look. Now you may also have a whole bunch of ideas about it. All kinds of concepts and stories and dramas, perhaps. Now maybe not so much dramas around this thing, but maybe kind of stories, and like, whose pen is it? How much does it cost? Where did it come from? Maybe you borrowed it from someone and you forgot to give it back. You said, oh, could I borrow it for a second? And now you realize you're sitting here with it, right? It's in your hand right now. And you didn't just borrow it, you actually what? You took it, and you went to, she didn't even say took it. You said what?
Stole it.
You stole it, and now you're sitting here in this room, right, with a stolen pen, right? It's not just, and was it just an innocent mistake?
Yes.
But maybe perhaps there was something deeper in your subconscious where you wanted to, I don't know, maybe you would feel powerful or feel, maybe there's something deeper to look at. What do you think, Lynn?
Well, it's
Maybe it says something about your personality.
Could be.
Could you? Now it is Hanukkah, so I thought we could go there, right? We could virtually go anywhere with this. Yeah, and then how would the rest of the session go now that we've got you going? You could start going into more stories, like maybe you ought to just leave now, right, and then try to find that person. What do you think? Really, I mean, should you even, someone with your character should even be in a holy situation such as this? I mean, after all, you are a thief of sorts, a pen thief.
Take it. I don't want it.
So this is okay, so here's the idea of choiceless awareness they can give you, is like just to recognize what shows up in the window and just leave it right there. You just leave it right there and you recognize the difference between what shows up and the stories that you may have about what has shown up. Like it's a pretty bird or an ugly bird. I like this, I don't like that. And you can literally just sit and watch this and go, hey, this is what's shown up, and we're not trying to get rid of anything. We're not trying to encourage more things to be there. We're not trying to add on any stories. We're just literally recognizing what's showing up in the present moment. Recognizing the difference between what is present and our stories or our content about what is present. Now, my claim to you is that this will give you great freedom. But it's only the first step. Only the first step. So another one is, maybe you were expecting payment from someone, right? You were expecting a check or expecting cash, and it didn't happen, right? Or you got a bill in the mail, and that was unexpected. So just common things that happen to people all the time. And so I'm suggesting that these things just show up in your life. That you didn't get the money that you were expecting, and you also got something else. What else did you get that you didn't expect? A bill. Can you imagine that happening at the same time? I'm just trying to give so instead, what stories could you do if we didn't do choiceless awareness right now? Tell me about the stories, Linda. What could you do?
Why me? Why now?
Why do bad things happen to good people?
Yeah.
Right?
This is my life.
This is my life.
Yeah. Here we go again.
Here we go again. So you can see what you could do. So what does choiceless awareness do right now? Take me through it, Linda. So it's just like it gives you, my claim is it gives you freedom, and it could just be a what?
Coincidence, it just it happens.
It could even forget coincidence. You don't even have to go that far. It's not some sort of Jungian synchronicity. The Lord isn't trying to give you a message. Really? Yeah, no kidding. It's not some thing from a wizard in the sky is trying to tell you something. It's literally that it could just be that what? There's a bill.
There's a bill. And there's no payment.
And there's no other, and you just hold it right there for a second. So you don't have to do anything with this. You just recognize this is a what? That's a bird. You just look at it, you go, that's a bird. This is a what? This is a bill. This is a non-payment. This is a newspaper. I mean, it doesn't mean you don't make stories up. You don't make connections. You don't have to bring a deity for crying out loud into this, right? It's not necessary. It's just like going, hey, this is what's present. Choiceless awareness, and we're not trying to what? We're not trying to get rid of it. We don't have to change the subject. Oh my God, it's a bill, and then and I can't deal with this right now, so I should what? I should go to the movies. Absolutely. Yeah, I need to stop thinking about this right away because I know where my mind can go. It could spiral downward. You don't have to do any of this. It's just like I'm suggesting that the first step is crucial, is that you are just accepting of what's there. You're not trying to get rid of anything, not trying to push anything away. You're not trying to hold on to anything. You're not trying to keep it there. It just shows up, and by the way, birds often just fly away too, right? And you're not trying to get them back. You don't try to get a bird feeder and put it outside the window and hope they come back tomorrow, and then you get mad at yourself because, oh my God, I went and bought the bird feeder and I got the seed and then they didn't come. I mean, none of this. Right. Someone said they were going to call you yesterday, and then they what? And then you don't have to do anything about that. It's just like today. Yesterday, what was in front of the window, they said they were going to what? And then today is that day, and then you don't have, and that's what's in front of the window. And you don't have to do anything. Can you believe it? Where could you go with that? They're what?
They don't care about.
Well, of course they don't. What the hell, right? Are they disrespecting you? Of course they're what? Of course they're unreliable, untrustworthy too, right?
Maybe something terrible happened to them.
Oh, sure.
That's why they didn't call.
Right, they're probably where? In ICU.
Yeah.
Right.
You never know what they're suffering at that time.
Right. You could. How about you don't have to do any of that. Even though like this nice reframe that Steve just did, you don't have to do that. You could just be like, what? That's it. Philip, could you imagine operating in such a crazy manner?
If you take everything personally, it's going to not work out.
Or try to control what shows up, what doesn't show up, and here we're just going like this. You don't have to do any of this. Now, that is the first step in all of this. And if you realize that what we're trying to do is we're not trying to turn you into a doormat at all, we're actually trying to literally free you. That's what the practice is trying to do, is trying to free you from attaching a whole bunch of stories and a whole bunch of concepts to what is actually just a present moment event. Something has shown up in front of the window, something has shown up in front of the door, and you leave it right there without trying to bring in anyone or anything's intention, what they really meant. None of it. You just leave it. It's a very simple, peaceful way to live. It's a very simple, peaceful way to live. Now, how many of you think you're smart enough intellectually just to go, I got it? Good, excellent, good answer. Okay, because this is clearly not something that you can get intellectually. Yes, can you understand what I'm saying? Do I think you're a nincompoop? No, I know you can understand what I'm saying. But as far as you bringing it into your life and making this a direct experience, this has to be practiced on the cushion. So at least, every day you're looking at least half an hour, and then mixing and blending throughout the day is what I'm going to recommend. So 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, probably 5-10 times a day. And that's called mixing and blending. Please write that down. So if you've got to set alarms on your phone, then set them. Yeah, just 2 minutes where you just check in and just do choiceless awareness. Choiceless awareness here, choiceless awareness there. You literally, all you do with it is to practice it. You just recognize what's in front of your sense faculties and what's in your mind, and you just allow it to be there. That's it. Amazingly simple instruction with profound implications if you'll mix and blend. If you'll just try to have a practice once a day where you have a half an hour and you don't try to mix and blend, meaning these little 2-minute sessions here and there, then I think you're going to find it difficult. And I don't know, since it's so easy for you, you may go, well, where would I find all these 2 minutes? How could I remember? Well, this is the practice of mindfulness in everyday life. So let me give you some help with this. Here's what I recommend to you. Where do you get these 2 minutes? And because they're available to you all the time. I would suggest this. I would suggest a refrigerator. A refrigerator. Couldn't hurt. Before eating, you get the food. You could be just a minute there. It's just stopping. It's taking a pause and literally just stopping and going, okay, so here's what's in front of the sense faculties. Here's what's in front of the house, and then I have all kinds of stories perhaps about this. And just inhale and exhale. You want to inhale and soften and use the exhalation to release the stories and the content. I suggest traffic lights, refrigerators, telephones, computers. I mean, I watch people like answer a phone, like there is some necessity that they have to get that first or second ring. I'm like, nah, that's not true. I would say it's far better to miss the call, if it goes 4 or 5 rings, and then call them right back after you've done this. It would be much smarter than there's no imperative that you have to answer the phone like right away. That's not true. It would be far better if you did this. Windshield of your car. How about a bathroom mirror in your house? I mean, think about it. Like when you go to literally in the bathroom mirror in the morning, right? You're just sitting there. It's like all that's there is what? Just visual, auditory. It's just the sense faculty stuff. Are there any stories about that? Just a couple here, right? And it's just choiceless awareness. Hey, this is what's shown up, right? This is what shows up. We just accept what's there, and we inhale and exhale, release the stories. And I would encourage you, like if you can't do that, if you only can get caught up in the stories, no judgment, by the way, obviously, if you get caught up, just like in sitting practice, no judgment if you get caught up in stories. You just recognize that you got caught up. That's all. Thinking, or judging, and then come back to choiceless awareness, please. Now, out of this, you will gain a concentrated mind, is what happens if you do the practice. If you don't do the practice, then you will not get a concentrated mind. And a concentrated mind, when I use that term, I mean an ability to focus your attention where you want, whenever you want. You can place your mind where you want, whenever you want, for however long you wish. That we call mental pliancy. Mental pliancy. An ability to place attention where you want, whenever you want, for however long you wish. And it comes from mindfulness. It comes from cultivating choiceless awareness. And lots of people try to do concentration practice without developing this first, and it's never going to work. I'll tell you with that. That's not going to happen. You develop mindfulness first, you develop choiceless awareness first, and then concentration. It naturally follows. And the more that you practice choiceless awareness, then concentration becomes easy. And mindfulness is a muscle, concentration is a muscle. But if you try to concentrate without choiceless awareness, I think you're going to have great difficulty. Why do you think I'm saying that? What do you think is going to happen?
First thing that comes, lost, whatever it is going to throw you off.
Yeah.
There's your concentration.
That's true. You're exactly right. Yeah. Your mind's going to go there, but wander off here and there. And so developing choiceless awareness, and like as Steve would say, right, just learning how to be cool with whatever's in front of you, then concentration follows. Concentration follows. Mental pliancy, or mental flexibility. So again, these are stages of freedom. Choiceless awareness, the concentration that follows, the mental flexibility that follows, but all leading to a particular desirable path that we're seeking, and which is called wisdom. And here is where I'm going to say, see, I told you it wasn't about being a doormat. It's about being able to apply this stuff. It's about being able to apply what we're doing. So if you can develop choiceless awareness, and you can develop concentration, and you can, there's no one in here who's not capable of that, then here's what comes next, the wisdom piece, which is then choosing a particular speech or conduct, an action, speech or action, that comes from choiceless awareness. It's based on choiceless awareness, that we refer to as choosing things that would be wholesome and avoiding decisions that would be, or speech that would be unwholesome. Which are utility statements, thinking that, the belief that if I operated this way, then this would propel me toward awakening, or at least not to suffer as much. But you try to just right from the get-go say, what should I do? What would be the most wholesome speech or most wholesome action? without these things first, you're going to be all over the place. You're going to be choosing amongst the choices that you'll make about wholesome and unwholesome will largely be based on the fabrications or the stories you have made about whatever it is that showed up. And so you'll really be behind the 8 ball, so to speak. You'll be behind the curve, unfortunately. And you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it. So that is the distinction. That you'll be better off in terms of speech and action choices if you'll develop choiceless awareness than if you didn't. There's not even a fine distinction between the two. You develop choiceless awareness first, just letting whatever shows up be there, not being for it or against it, and practicing that every day. And by practicing every day, by the way, that's how your mind will become concentrated. If you don't practice every day, your mind will not become concentrated. So you definitely want to practice choiceless awareness every day. And then your attention will become increasingly clear. You'll gain great clarity, great focus, vividness of attention is what will happen. And then your speech and action choices will be very, very different as a result. Because right now, if without that, you'll just try to, you'll try to make choices, but they'll largely be based again on not what is happening, but the unconscious, the relationship to the unconscious content that is taking place. And those are two very distinct things. Yeah, so if you have if you cultivate choiceless awareness, let's say a bird comes, a woodpecker, right, comes in front of the window. Now, if you're a homeowner and you have a wooden home and you have a woodpecker that comes in front of your window, right? I'm suggesting that the first thing that you do is what? Get rid of it. Go get the poison. You understand? Is that? Okay, but see, some people would think to themselves, right, who did not have this practice, that would be a wise decision. Do you get that? Because it's not just that there's a woodpecker in front of the window. A woodpecker is already a what? Come on, take me through the content. It's a bird that's going to do what? Absolutely he's going to. And you can see he's also probably going to nest there, right, and have offspring, and then the whole thing, it's over, isn't it? Huh? Yeah. You can see what's going to happen, and so we need to kill it, don't we? I mean, that is a wholesome decision and it is a wholesome decision right there. You know why it's a wholesome decision? Well, that's easy. Because what's more important is that we have human beings living in this house, and they have the great potential to do great good in the world, and they need a place to live, so we need to kill the woodpecker. And that's very clear to me right now. Isn't not clear to you? Okay, good. I'm happy it's not clear to you. How about that there is a woodpecker that has shown up in front of the window, and we allow it to what? And we recognize that we have all kinds of stories. And we don't try to get the woodpecker, we don't try to push it away, we don't try to keep it there. What happens next, do you think?
Flies away.
It may be at what? Have you noticed that most of the time that's in fact what happens, what shows up in front of a window actually what? Usually, have you noticed the sense faculty gets that usually things show up and then they what? And then other things come and then they... Have you picked up on this in life yet? How old are you? That if you just leave well enough, things come into view and then they go out and you don't even have to do anything. Have you figured this out? Okay, including things that could potentially be what? Harmful, but you don't have to actually do anything about that. You don't have to do anything at all. You don't have to go up any stories, you don't have to. Now, you just saved yourself how much trouble? And then your mind is becoming increasingly clear the more that you do things. You're gaining confidence and mental flexibility that everything is okay as it is. And so you're learning how to be, truly, you're learning how to be present. You're learning how to be present. And you're learning that stories are fabrications, that you're learning that they're not to necessarily be trusted. You don't need to push them away. You don't need to accept them. You're learning also some humility here and learn how to smile at yourself, because formerly you are the kind of person who would perhaps try to execute this little woodpecker, right? Or try to get rid of this, or try to get rid of that, or try to keep this. And instead, you're just learning how to be okay and accepting of yourself as you are. And that could be very useful in relationships. What do you think? You knew this is where this was going, right? I mean, it's that time of year. You got a lot of family and friends and conversations. So imagine that. So you're actually, you can see how this could turn into an active listening practice, right? So there are people who are just going to show up in your life the next few weeks. What do you think? And they're going to say some random things. What do you think? Is that fair? Is that? Am I on the right track, or am I just making? What are you getting out of all this? Are they going to say random things? Okay. And then what should you do about them? Especially before they even show up, because you know how they were last year and the year before. They basically have a pattern that when they show up, they're pretty disruptive, right? Kind of like a woodpecker. Now, unlike the woodpecker, we don't want to execute these people because they're your relatives. Do you think you could just let people just be there in front of the windows? And no what? No stories, no dramas, no fabrication. Could you do that or no? Or do you already have, what it's going to be like? Do you know what they're going to do? Don't you, or no? Are you new to life? You know what's going to happen. Or how about you just go like this? It's like you just show up and you're just cool with whatever shows up. It's choiceless awareness. These things come in and these things go away. And what you're developing at the end, after you learn all of this and cultivate and develop this beautiful tool, this beautiful muscle of mindfulness and this beautiful muscle of concentration, is that then you are able to make clean decisions, clean choices. So if that person is there and they continue to be there, or the woodpecker is there and continues to be there, that you are now more apt to make a decision that is based on what would provide, and this is of course a utility statement, what would be the most wholesome decision? What would bring the most peace for myself or this situation? How's that? Instead of a purely reactive situation that's reactive to your own stories. So Katie, that's my long response to your query. Is that helpful? Okay. But if you don't practice every day, chances of you developing these capacities, I will give you, the heads up, it's non-existent. Non-existent. So let's talk about some other, traffic lights, right? You could use it there. You could also put maybe some little stickies, I recommend. Little stickies up, there's the two pillars. There's what is happening, and there's your relationship to what is happening. You could put them around your house. Maybe like right before you walk out the door. It just gives you room, it just basically that means, take a minute to pause and just recognize. In Tantra, we use it as doorways. Whenever we go through a doorway, that's our practice in Tantra. It's like going, hey, wait a second. What does this signify? What does this mean? Definitely a different change of reference. But where else could you use this? So far I've got relationships, stoplights, refrigerators, bathroom mirrors. Where else could be useful? Yeah.
Practicing patience.
Practicing patience? Yeah. Where? Okay. Ultimately, and making, again, what does it mean? It means to show up in a situation. There's what is happening. There's a relationship without shoulds. Or if there are shoulds present, to recognize that a should is present. How things should be or shouldn't be. And learning how to inhale and to soften your relationship to shoulds and exhale and release your shoulds. And your shoulds, again, are your demand that reality be different. That this shouldn't be there. But it is there. Do you get that? And you're saying it what? It should be, but it's crazy because of what? It is. Yeah. Or you say some things, should be there that aren't. But the reality is that they aren't there. So you saying that they should be, it's like, it's like saying, what's the guy from Alabama, Roy Moore? He shouldn't be in the Senate. But the reality is what? He's very likely going to be there. And like it's like, hey, what showed up in front of your sense gates is that what? Reality is that what? You got a woodpecker, right? It's like, that's what's there. And you saying it shouldn't be there is it causes whose stress? Who's causing you to suffer? And also, more importantly, is it based on reality? The reality is that this is there. And you're saying it what? That it is there. So why are you saying it shouldn't be there when it's there? Help me with that. Why are you saying things shouldn't be there that are there? Besides it's a habit, which is like, a fairly, juvenile response. Right? I mean, it's like, why are you, like you're saying, I mean, it is a juvenile response because it's like, this is reality. This stuff is there. The reality is we missed like 4 flights. And that's the reality. I say it shouldn't have happened. But you would say to me, what? But Michael, it did happen. And I'm like, I go, well, it's just my habit to say it's not supposed to. What would you say to that? And what age is that? Huh? I don't know what that means. Something like quinoa. I don't know what that is. This is the idea. It's just like going, hey, but the reality is we did miss those flights. And those flights were canceled. And getting mad changes what? Yeah, actually, that's not true. It did change something. What did it change? It changed my stress, and it changed who I got disturbed. Yeah. Yeah. And all I'm saying is just like, hey, first step is what? And this, I want you to see what I mean by a muscle. That you become in every situation, like once you get this, like no matter what situation, no matter what shows up at your windows or your door, you've got this down, you've mastered, because this is a habit. It's a healthy habit that you're like going, I'm going to stop with the shoulds. I'm going to accept whatever shows up at the windows. I'm going to accept what shows up at the door. And if we don't get to go on vacation as we planned, then that's what shows up. And I go, but we, what?
Want.
We should have.
Yeah.
We should have, but then it, what? Now, and we could get into like such like disputes about, I thought you were going to do this and you were going to do that, but the reality is that what? It didn't happen. So beyond maybe some initial disappointment, then what? It's just like, hey, relax. Yeah. And so something else will show up in front of the windows. Where do you think? And I have no idea what it's going to be. But maybe it'll be even worse. Probably will, don't you think? Things come in threes. Is that how it works?
Or 7s.
20s, right. Do you just make stuff up? What shows up in the window is present moment reality. That's what's now. So let's go ahead and get it down straight, okay? So let's make a timeline arrow, please, with a hashtag, the hash mark in the middle, okay? So just a long straight line with 2 arrows on either end. And of course, the arrow on the left represents the past. And the arrow on the right represents the future. And the hashtag in the middle represents now, which is, of course, where you happen to be at all times. And I affectionately refer to this, actually, it's Lama Surya Das's idea, but I've picked up on it. It's called BST, or Buddha Standard Time. Yeah. The eternal present moment. And that's what we mean. That is the house. That is just the windows and the door. That's actually where it is, without the stories and the dramas. There's just what takes place right when? Right now. And whatever shows up, watch this, ready? And right now, whatever shows up is perfect. Whatever shows up is just fine. There's no problem. Truly. The problems are going to come from if you what? Tell stories about what shows up. Like it shouldn't be there, or this is supposed to be there, this should be there. But actually, in the present moment, how many problems are there? Like right now, let's go ahead and try. For example, all the stuff that you've been going through, right? But here we are right now. And so the arrow to the left represents everything before this moment. And the arrow on the right represents anything that might happen after this moment. But right now, how many problems do you have? Take a look around. What's in front of your senses? How to practice this mindfulness in everyday life. Look around. What's in front of your senses? Come on. People, what else? Flowers, statues, paintings, what else? Just look around. It's like, you see there's no problem. And that's just visual stuff. What about sounds? Because there's 5 windows. So sounds, please. Fan, my voice. Okay, so that's another window. No problem. And then what about smells? Olfactory, please. Neutral, fine. Okay, and then taste. And you just report what you taste. And then touch, tactile, please. The 5th window. You see, everything's fine. Everything's just fine. Right when? Which is where you, well, that's where you are. When would this not be applicable? So say, remember in front of a refrigerator? Remember in front of the bathroom mirror? Remember at the traffic light? Remember when you walk through a door? Remember when you're having, supposedly going to have some family members come over and they're going to show up, but they're not here yet. So what's there when? Why are you suffering? So choiceless awareness gives you this freedom. It's just to recognize going, hey, whatever's present is what? Is what is there. That's it. No big deal. And that to do it all the time, I'm recommending again, 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, using certain mnemonic devices, memory devices, or images such as a traffic light, just to recall going, stoplight doesn't just mean stoplight. Stoplight means what? Go choiceless awareness, right? Refrigerator doesn't mean just refrigerator anymore. It means what? Go choiceless awareness. Recognize the difference between the refrigerator door and the stories about it. Or when you open up the refrigerator, hey, there's just what's there. It's just a bunch of what? It's just a bunch of stuff that's in there. It doesn't mean what? Come on. What doesn't it? All that stuff that's right there. What doesn't it mean? What should you do with it? What shouldn't you do? How about you just the first thing is just what? Open the door. That's it. That's it. So Steve talks about it as patience, which is the ability not to get angry or not to should. So, basic rules around this: don't should on yourself and don't should on others. So yellow stickies, please. Don't should on yourself, don't should on others. Meaning don't make demands on yourself, don't make demands on others. Just deal with what is currently present using your practice. Don't try to get rid of things, don't try to keep things, don't try to reject things. Just whatever's present and allow it to come and allow it to go. Now, if you're able to do that and you get really good at this, then you begin to make choices based on this, and that's called wisdom. That you're not just reacting unconsciously to content. That you are responding consciously to the distinction between what is present and your stories about what is present. And that's a huge difference. So yes, cultivating patience. Learning how to be with reality instead of rejecting it, trying to adopt it, fixate on it, hope things to be different. Truly learning how to be present, learning how to be free. So that is my long-winded talk tonight about where this is all headed. How to bring all of this together. This is not a prescriptive practice. It's a descriptive practice, but how to bring all of this into your life using the practices that you have taken on so far. What its function is to develop mindfulness, concentration, but ultimately it is to develop wisdom. Ultimately it is to develop wisdom, and that wisdom is what gives you freedom from suffering. How to make better choices, conscious, aware choices. So before we do the meditation, thoughts, questions, observations? Steve?
This lesson tonight really reminds me a lot of what Shantideva said in the Way of the Bodhisattva, in chapter 7 about patience.
Chapter 6 is the patience chapter.
And
of Shantideva's Bodhisattva's way of life. Yeah.
And how we get uncomfortable with things that we get that we don't want and things that we don't get that we want.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, this is straight out of the Buddhist playbook. I'm just trying to give it to you in 2017, language that is applicable to you. So these practices don't seem something that they're in no way esoteric, that they're directly applicable to your life, to your family, to your work, to your health. I just want everyone to be crystal clear about it. Now, this is really meant for you. Yeah.
When you talk about, and not in this class you haven't mentioned, but manifesting.
But manifesting. Mm-hmm.
So when you say that things just show up, does manifesting have anything to do with, no, okay.
Nope. No, there's going to be, Sally is asking about manifesting, and at this stage, I want you to get all of this kind of spiritual woo-woo out of your head that you're going to be able to manifest things. I want you to be really practical about all of this. What you're seeing right now, we'll talk about in our next course, is called karma. This is not manifestation. Manifestation is when you purposefully can put things in the reality of awareness that you wish. And I think that what we're trying to get you to see right now is that you don't have that capacity, that it is a mountain of things that just keep on appearing to you. Is that right? A mountain of things that you did not purposefully put there. Is that right? And I want you to learn how to be cool, and that's called your karma. And learning how to become cool with your own karma is essentially what I'm sharing with you this evening. And stop trying to get rid of your own karma. That's going to be the first step to actually getting rid of your karma. Is accepting that it's there, that things are just showing up. But I'm preempting our next series already, so I don't want to do that. But for those of you who think you have the capacity to manifest whatever you want, go ahead. Okay, that didn't work. All right, so, so you're just not very good at this. And it's not that you're just not very good at it, it's just that you are unconsciously facing, a lifetime plus of an unconscious reservoir of creation. And to first learn that you have in fact are doing this, you are creating this. And as we explore mindfulness at a deeper level, the two pillars of mindfulness will indeed change. From there is what is happening, and then there is your relationship to what is happening, and it will become much deeper. The two pillars will then become what is happening is your own karma, and then you have a relationship to your own karma. But we haven't got there yet, so I'm just preempting future classes right now. So that's not going to be part of your homework unless we put it in there as extra credit bonus points. Okay, so in any case, that's that. Other questions, thoughts before we move on? And then after the meditation, I'll take more questions. Steve?
Are we going to use the book like we did before when you taught the lessons about karma?
We are going to be we'll be using specific texts, historical texts and commentaries in all of our future courses. So, and I'll give you what those are. And this particular series, we didn't have any homework. We didn't have any readings for you. It was literally just to come to the classes and do the tests and the quizzes that we've given you online. Okay? So that's it. But our next series will be using illuminating the path to enlightenment by the Dalai Lama. And it is available for free online. And again, we'll be providing you with that link, and where you can order it off Amazon. But it's the Dalai Lama's commentary on a 1,000-year-old text from Atisha, which is classically used in the monasteries as the most fundamental training for how to get started. And the topics that are included in that course are everything from what is emptiness to what is Buddha nature to what is bodhicitta. What is renunciation, how to develop loving kindness, what are the qualities of a qualified teacher, and what are the qualities of a qualified student. So these are the topics and many more that will be discussed in the next series, which hopefully is exciting to you. Certainly is for me. My fourth go around teaching this over the last 20-something years now, so I'm looking forward to it. It's getting more increasingly refined as we do it. So that's it. Okay. Anything else? All right. Let's take a minute. Fidget break, please. Nice, quiet fidget break. Just a minute, please, and then we'll do the meditation and come back and take some more questions.